we were all struggling to capture the learning of a particular group of students that we knew were in each other's schools, and we talked about it in our other meetings, but here was an opportunity to tackle this together and open up to learning from each other.
We thought about who our at-risk learners were within the school and as a network of all the special schools, and it was interesting when we sat down and talked about it that we discovered a lot of similarity between those kids.
If you're working in a regular school with a child that doesn't have an intellectual disability or doesn't have any cognitive delay, you can talk to them about how do they learn and who do they learn from and what devices and tools. And so when you look at the picture that they're presented on the Learning and Change Network, you can kind of see how that works. For us, we're not able to get that information so clearly from the child, so it was more around talking to significant others in that child's environment, and that included specialist staff, so physiotherapists, speech language therapists, it included the teacher, it included senior teachers, it included family whānau as well. So asking them, what does it look like when your child's learning, what do they use, who do they learn from, but also how do they learn.
And a lot of the questions were based around how the student was learning and who the student was working best with to learn these new things. And I think that brought quite a lot to light, because those are not questions that we would normally ask in those meetings.
Because the nature of special schools and working in such close collaboration with family whānau anyway around a child and their learning and their IEP, we would have all said that we did this really well. But when we asked these questions, we realised that we hadn't got all of the information, and by asking families in particular, how does their child learn, that was a big eye-opener for us.
We developed an assessment tool that went far beyond what we were doing originally, and it helped us work out what things gave us what information and what information was most useful. And the things that really stood out for me was the information that we got from parents, particularly when we changed the question from what do you want the student to learn to how does that student learn? How does your child learn?
We have 2 students who we focus on, where the engagement levels were quite low, and I think they're also students who were hard to engage regardless of what we tried and the resources we had in place.
The mother that I interviewed was able to quite matter of fact and clearly say, well, he learns like this. This is what you do if you want him to learn something. And we'd kind of missed that information somewhere along the way. We discovered that when he was working one-on-one with the teacher or teacher aide, he looked really limited. But when all the adults moved away and left him alone with the resources, he was a great problem solver. What stood out was his curiosity, and all of a sudden we looked at that kid in a different way.
Our challenge is around increasing engagement, which in turn leads to learning. But what we found with the student that we're using to trial the processes was that in terms of engagement, he is engaged, but it looked like perhaps he wasn't learning what he could, and that there was more scope for learning, and maybe he was just busy doing some stuff that he had already learnt, but doing it over and over again. What was the new learning? And that's kind of where we're at. So yes, we want to look at engagement, but that's very closely linked to learning and what is the new learning for that student.